And before I begin, because I promised them this as well, and I want to know, what got you to go back to school at 60?
That's, I'm really nervous, because I've never faced such an audience before. To go back to and to see so many school children at one time is, kind of overwhelming. I actually went back to Harvard at the age of 60. And, most parents, what they do is they send their kids to foreign universities to study because they couldn't do it themselves. So it's like a vicarious pleasure that happens. And that's what happened with me. My son couldn't go to Harvard because he had a little kid and he had to look after him. And therefore he said, Papa, I can't go, but you go. And then you go to Harvard and you do the course. So I did a course on medical education when I was 60 years old. I was the oldest in there. And I had a great time. I thought that because I was a first generation entrepreneur, I thought that I knew everything. But when I went to Harvard, I realized how little I knew and how much more I had to learn. And it actually changed my whole perspective to life and to business and to the way I conducted my company. So after coming back, it took me almost 5 years to actually implement some of the learnings that I had in Harvard. So two of the critical learnings that I learned, one of them was leadership. It taught me that leadership is everything. So all you kids out there who are leaders in your group, who are monitors, you're all in the right position. It's a great learning that you're doing. It's something which is very important in your life, which will hold you in great stead later on. So don't shy away from it. Don't get scared of taking responsibility and don't be scared of being a leader. It's wonderful to be a leader. And it's going to train you how to go get on in life. Very, very, very wonderful. And we've seen that as well, that wherever the leadership is good, whether it's at the state level, at the municipal level, or at the country level or the international level, always that person will do well if the leadership is good. So strong leadership is a very important thing, and I learned that also in business, because you may have a great leader at the top, but if at the local branch level your leadership is poor, then that branch is not going to do well. So leadership at all levels is something that I learned. The second thing that I learned was that create an organization of continual learning. Now this is very important, and it's organizations, whether it's a school, whether it's a college, whether it's an industry, they always in the long run do very well, provided they're in a continual learning program. So learning doesn't end with school, learning doesn't end with one class, learning doesn't end with one exam. Learning just begins over there and it continues throughout. I'm saying today I'm now 73 years young and I'm still learning. And every day I try to do something new, every day I try to learn something better, every day I try to improve myself in anything that I'm doing. Whether I'm a singer or whether I've had live performances in the same audience here with my own orchestra of 12 people.
So we'll make you sing in the end.
All right, 2 lines, just we'll have everybody singing along together. So I've had all of that, and then as an author or as a philanthropist or as an entrepreneur or as a doctor, I've always tried to improve myself every day, every moment. So I think the message really is that can you do better today than what you did yesterday? And I think that's really what you should be looking at.
That is what the aim is, that eventually you want to try to do better than what you did yesterday. And so you've been a shining example of that, becoming better every single day. But out here, there are also, apart from the students, there are also teachers and principals from various schools. And growing up, whilst at least I was in school, there was not too much of emphasis paid on Ayurveda or homeopathy, on the Indian version of medicine. Do you think that this is important to disseminate at this age? And if so, what can schools do outside school curriculum in order to disseminate this information at a nascent age?
Right platform for me to say it, but I have to say it because I have the opportunity. I don't believe that today schools actually teach you what you should be learning. They actually teach you what you should not be learning. Because what you learn is not going to help you in your life. I think schools need to teach life skills, which they are not. Schools need to teach how you should get ahead of the curve. They need to tell you how you should deal with, how you should find solutions, not how to deal with and identify problems. So today, working out a maths problem, how is it going to help me in my life? But can a maths problem also help me to find a solution in my life for the problems I'm going to face? And one of the things that I learned in Harvard were case studies of industries and even the spaceships that went up Columbia. Why did it fail? So understanding failure, learning from it, and like this, understanding life skills and learning it at the grassroots level is very important. I mean, I don't think I ever learned how to cut a check when I was in school. Of course, at that time, I never thought I'd have money in my bank, that I never need to cut a check. But I'm ashamed to own that when I did get my first money in the bank account, even if it was just 150 rupees, I did not know how to cut a check. And I wish my school had taught me that. So life skills. So I now want to come to medicine. I don't think I wanted to learn anatomy and physiology in school. I don't care a damn whether my femur is called my femur or my ulna is called the ulna. It makes no difference to me at all. What I want to learn is how should I learn how to stay fit and healthy in my life as I'm growing up. And that is not taught in school. And therefore things like nutrition, which is such an important part of our life. You know, it is said that if you don't think of food as your medicine, then medicine will become your food. So, are we eating the right kind of food? And have been trained in schools that fast food is fast track to an early death. We are not. And therefore eating warm, healthy, balanced meal, and I'm not going to go into details of that because it'll become a medical lecture. But that's very important, and I'm saying so learning the right nutrition, the way to live, learning positive thinking, learning how to deal with problems. I think that's what education should be about. Similarly, when I come to medicine, prevention is a very important part. How much of prevention are we taught? What do we do when we, even small things? I'm so sorry to say, but COVID taught us how to wash our hands. We had to learn it the hard way. And when we wash hands, what do? We just put on the tap and we just do like this and we come out. We are always in a rush. We need to wash hands like we need to scrub our hands. We need to wash like this all the way, like how the surgeons do. That's what's going to keep us clean. Small things like, have you ever thought that in our literature it has been written, with which hand should you wash your bottom? Have you ever understood how important it is? I'm sorry you wanted breakfast right now, but I don't mind saying this again. Because it's a very important example to show you. That when we don't use toilet paper and when we wash our bottom with our hands, they always say that if you're using your right hand, you wash your bottom with your left hand. And if you're lefty, then you wash your bottom with the right hand. How many schools teach this to their children? Now, why is it so important? It's important because all the infection that you get in your body goes through the nail bed. You can get millions of eggs or worms into one nail. And if this is the hand with which you're going to wash and this is the hand with which you're going to eat, you certainly are going to fall sick. So I'm giving you these small practical examples. What I'm trying to say is that school should have life learning skills. It should teach practical things. It should not be rote. It should be lateral thinking. It should be analytical thinking. It should teach me how to get out of problems of life. And I remember, and I'll give you a very small example, going back to many, many years ago, I appeared for senior Cambridge. And I was so happy because all our papers used to come from senior Cambridge in UK. And one time, a few years before my time, the English papers used to go there, and then the ship in which it used to come sunk, and so everybody passed the exam. That was really the happiest moment of my life, right? You didn't have to appear for a senior Cambridge exam at all, and we all passed. We got marked for the result, and that's what I want to emphasize. In Cambridge, we got marks because of the way we thought, and therefore, if in a physics problem our answer was wrong but I think it was correct, we still got 60% of marks. That means you could get a first class even if your answer was wrong, but your thinking was correct. And therefore I urge all the teachers over here and the educationists that please start bringing a change in the way in which we teach our people, in the curriculum that we talk to them, and even with whatever limitation we have. Because teacher is the most impressionable person in school at that age. And therefore, if they can be role models and they can actually do something which is a little outside the box and actually teach students practical skills on how they can overcome problems in life, that is something that really needs to be done.
I think life skills is such an important part of school curriculum, and it should be with the NEP, with the emphasis on life skills coming through now, and hopefully with the implementation of the NEP, it is something that will happen. But sir, you chose homeopathy in 1974, and you set up your first ownership clinic in 1982. This was much before I was born. You coined these 2 years as the 2 pivotal years in your career. We all know the first day jitters in school, and especially when we're stepping into something new. So sir, what was the medical and the business world like in 82 towards homeopathy? And in that context, how do you encourage young people to approach unexplored domains? I had to ask one sensible question. So I read it out.
Thank you so much. All your questions are sensible, and so is your book. I must tell you, I enjoyed reading it very much. Thank you so much. And here's to many, many more. So to answer your question, as Rishabh said, it was a time when he was not born, so I don't know how relevant I can be when I'm talking to you. But let me go back a little bit on time, because at that time, medicine was not an industry. It was not recognized as an industry. Because it was not an industry, there were no loans given by banks. You didn't have this situation where you could get calls on the phone and say, sir, आप बैंक का लोन लीजिए ना, हमारे पास हमको पैसे देने के लिए पैसा है, आप लीजिए, please take some money from us. It was not like that. You had to actually struggle a lot. You had to actually fight, to get some money. And so setting up any industry, a medical industry, without a capital was always a challenge. And with homeopathy, it was even worse, because when I became a doctor, I was one of the youngest doctors in the country. I became a doctor when I was 22 years old. And I've now completed 50 years of my practice. So, one of the things that happened was that I used to look so young, and I still do, but I used to look so young that I used to wear specs with zero power so that I could look older and so that I could look more mature. Because people did not accept a doctor who was not very experienced. So, it was a big challenge at that time to actually start a practice, because neither was medicine really such a favorable thing, because every parent would say, I want my child to either be a doctor or an engineer. But today you have so many options, because today you can earn money even in something which is not very conventional. Like for example, you could be a DJ and you can be a social influencer and you can still make a lot of money. Now all these options were not there at that time. So to start any business at that time, any entrepreneurship, it was very, very difficult. And so I had to borrow money at the rate of 36% per annum, which is 3% per month, which was at that time the Bollywood rate, because that was the most dangerous, I would say not a very strong industry at that time, because it was not organized. And it took me 10 years to repay all my loans. But having done that, today I stand before you having, achieved something in life. And therefore I think, as you correctly said, the biggest challenge that we have is the fear of the unknown. We are always worried about the future. So either we are thinking about the past and we are sulking, but what we need to do is we need to live in the present. We need to live in the moment. And we should never get worried about the fear. Don't have any fear. I'm reminded of a little joke. How many of you have traveled by train in Mumbai? Any of you? Great. So there's a saying for people who travel in train. They say, दादर के आगे सीट है, दादर के आगे सीट है, डर के आगे जीत है. So you know that after Dadar, people will get off and then you get a seat to sit. And so also if you're not afraid, don't be afraid. Fear is the biggest killer even before you start your life. And this fear of the unknown is really very, very scary, because if you know what is happening, then you are prepared for it. Why were we so scared about COVID again? Because nobody knew the answer. Nobody knew what it was, nobody had heard it, and it just came and struck us so suddenly. So when you have uncertainty, then you are afraid. But if you have charted out your future correctly, and if you are very confident of what you are doing, and if you believe in yourself, as they say, that there's a saying again in English, they say perseverance is the key to success. And there's a little, Hindi saying as well, which says, "Kadam choom leti hai manzili aakar, kadam choom leti hai manzili aakar, agar rahi khud apni himmat na hare." So how many of you here have seen Munna Bhai MBBS? So to all you guys there, I always say, choose a path and then stick by it. Lage raho Munna Bhai.
Must ask this question. It's slightly outside syllabus, but you can answer any question outside syllabus, I am confident. And one which I want to ask personally, because of what you just said, is that when you were young, it's very difficult to be taken seriously. I remember when we started I.I.M.U.N in 2011, and going to a school and telling an educator that we want to explain people the Indian way. Today, I.I.M.U.N is yet run by 16 to 22-year-olds. When these people go, and minus Abhishek and Anjani, the two old people who are above 22, how do young people who are trying to do something in their life, who are trying to say this is what we want to do, be taken seriously in a society that is yet very obsessed with the fact that up until the time that you have grey, you've not done something that is of decent pedigree. So how do you convince seniors, and how do you convince your own school ecosystem, your college ecosystem, your parents, etc., saying, look, I'm 15, I'm old enough, I know what I want to do, and please allow me to do what I'm doing?
I think you've got to learn how to live outside the box. And I'm very sure that you need to make sure that you don't worry about what other people think about you. Let me be very honest again. I think I'm the most inappropriate speaker for this audience. But really, a lot of people who have succeeded in life are people who have been school dropouts. They haven't had great academic careers. I was not brilliant in school. I did very well in medicine later on, but I was not brilliant in school. But I got to be where I am. I think the biggest thing is that you got to believe in yourself. And you have to make sure that whatever you want to do, you will anyhow get it. The biggest challenge we have today is that because today, unfortunately, we are in a 2-minute Maggie generation, where we have fickle minds and we keep changing our minds very frequently. I think you should decide what you want to do. One of the things that Harvard taught me also was, that drug companies all over the world, they celebrate failure. For us, failure is a shame. We think, oh my God, now nobody will talk to us because we didn't succeed. Success is relative. It doesn't really matter. What is successful to you may not be successful to me. We can have different meanings of success. So it's very important, therefore, that I just lost my thought, so you have to bring me back to where I was.
No, it's therefore very important for individuals.
Yeah, so I was saying that don't worry about what people think about you.
Correct.
I mean, that's the key message. That don't worry about what people think about you, because it's only when you think outside the box that you become exceptional. Ordinary people become ordinary. Extraordinary people become extraordinary. So if you start thinking extraordinary, you start thinking outside the box, and you believe in yourself, and you stick with it, with what you believe firmly, you'll always succeed. Don't worry about the world. I'm saying, if you look at the way the world has evolved, it has evolved through people, not people who have been rationalists, but people who have fought against the system, and people who have thought outside the box. If Rishabh thought that one day he could set up an organization of young people who could change the world, then you can see it happening already.
Thank you.
So new age medicine, as a doctor, new age medicine started from California. There was a hippie movement, there was a flower movement that started, which kind of questioned everything. Why do we need to wear clothes? Why do we need to dress like this? Why can't we just do whatever we want? Why can't we put a flower in our hair? Why do we want to put jewelry? So everything starts from outside the box. And therefore, I don't think you should really worry about what people think about you. Just go ahead and do what you think is right. Believe in yourself, go there and achieve. And today there are so many opportunities that you'll always find something that will make you successful. And even if you can't, then do you remember Amitabh Bachchan's line? लाइन वहाँ से शुरू होती है जहाँ हम खड़े होते हैं.
Very, very well articulated, sir. There is much for us to learn, and I'm mentally making notes. Sir, what you said is very true. People who matter will not mind, and people who mind should not matter. But sir, again, and I'm saying this because it's easier said than done, because I've lived through that process, I understand it, that growing up as a teenager, seeking validation, and now validation, of course, has become social media validation. Validation has become validation from peers and society. We automatically, as human beings, continue to seek validation, saying that, what we're doing is actually correct. Therefore, what society is saying, if we are breaking away from that and we are breaking those stereotypes, and of course there are outliers such as you who have broken those stereotypes, A.S. Kiran Kumar sir before this, who've broken stereotypes and who've defined new territories. And I do know that all change makers, they're called change makers because they're bringing about change. But sir, when you are 14 and 15 and 16, to be able to have the strength to go up and say that, this is what we're going to be doing and this is how we're going to be doing it, and challenge that conventional thought is harder than perhaps the conversation that we are having. So are there any particular tips and tricks, if at all any, or should that be inner strength and inner resilience that should come out on your own?
So there are only 3 words for it. Hard work, and hard work.
So it's not Harvard that matters as much as hard work that matters.
So it's, there are a lot of opportunities that people get, but a lot of them get lost. So it's believe in yourself, in saying that I'm on the right track and therefore I'm going to do it against all odds. People who succeeded are all those who've done things against all odds. So you have to believe in yourself, you have to keep going. You don't have to worry about validation. I mean, what is important? How is it so important that somebody whom I don't even know thinks bad about me? How do I care? I know I'm doing good to society. Should I worry if somebody puts something bad on my Instagram account or somebody kind of trolls me and says something bad about me? Why should I bother? Why should it affect me? What affects me is what I think about myself. And therefore, what is very important that today we should not have low self-esteem. We must have high self-esteem. We must think well about ourselves. We must think that yes, we are very important and what we are doing is correct. And what we are doing is not just for ourselves, but what we are doing is for society and for humanity. And therefore, what I'm doing is going to change humanity. My passion in life is to promote homeopathy. I do it in every country where I go. I do it every platform where I go. But I want to make sure that I want to have a Bimari Mukh Bharat. I'm not a politician. So I don't talk about a Congress Mukh Bharat or a BJP Mukh Bharat. I'm talking about a Bimari Mukh Bharat. I'm saying how can we make India disease-free? And that's my dream. And for that, I have 175 free clinics all over the country. So that people who can't afford medicine can still go and take treatment. I have tied up with the UP government and we are now doing a kind of a pilot project with them where we are digitalizing all the clinics for them, starting with 2 clinics in Lucknow. So how can we actually make a disease-free India and then a disease-free world? Because so many diseases are diseases which we bring about ourselves because of lack of ignorance, knowledge. Today we are more worried about treatments rather than worrying about prevention. And if you could prevent disorder, you need not be sick. And you can save a lot of angst for people, families, and also a lot of money in hospitalization and medical care. So I think if you have a vision, if you have a dream, first of all, dream big. Always dream. I think one of the things that I find a little bit different, and I'm an author now like you, and I write, it's my 10th book which is coming out on Monday on mental health, which is Heal Good, Feel Good by Bloomsbury. But, I always believe that one of the disservice that we're doing and what technology has done is by not allowing us to visualize. Our sense of visualization has actually become very poor. Why? Because we're actually seeing images in front of us. Everything that we see is through an AV. But when I read, I imagine differently from what you imagine. Your dream is different from my dream. And therefore I think that not being able to read is not allowing our children to imagine. And it's very important that we should always keep our imagination alive. So always dream, number one. Number two is always dream big. There's again another English saying which says, they dream too low who dream below the sky. And like what they do in mutual funds, they give you a caveat. So I also give a caveat. I say, dream and reach for the skies, but keep your feet on the ground. Always be grounded, always be rooted in reality. So, and on one side be in a dream world, on the other side be real. And I think if you can manage and balance that, being in a dream world and yet being real, I think you're going to succeed.
And you've given us the perfect example of being somebody who's rooted and yet with having that vision which transformed your field. But sir, you talk about in your new book, you talk about mental health. And mental health is a conversation that has picked up in the last decade like none other. Mental health is a real thing and a lot of people face mental health issues. However, sometimes I have a conversation with my sister who's much younger and I tell her saying that, if you've had a bad breakup, you will get over it. If you've got low marks, you will get over it. It does not constitute necessarily as depression. The perception of mental health problems being slightly exaggerated more than they are. Does this exist according to you, or do you feel that every problem, big or small, is a mental health issue which needs to be dealt with accordingly?
So I think there's one thing where awareness actually creates dissonance. Because we have so much of information, and I'm sorry to say that we have a lot of information overload, because a lot of the information that we have is not really authentic, because we really depend on Dr. Google and WhatsApp universities for our information. And very often as a doctor, I find people coming to me and say, Dr. Sahab, aap to ye keh rahe hain, but Google mein to ye kaha hai? They actually question your credibility as well, because of something that they read so casually. So I think there's a lot of importance and exaggeration that is given to mental health problems today. Everybody has stress in their life, but everybody is not a mental patient. And there's a difference between having an emotional problem and difference between having a mental problem. So even in my book, I've divided it into 2 different chapters. So one is mental problems, which are actually mental diseases. It's important to recognize that. So for example, if in children you have ADHD, which is attention deficient hyperactivity disorder, and a lot of children today are restless because, we just have that 1 minute video on Instagram and after that it moves. So my attention span comes down over a period of time. I mean, today even I cannot watch a movie which is 3 hours, even though I'm very fond of theatre and very fond of movies, because even my attention span has come down, because that's what I watch all the time. So that becomes a disorder. So when it becomes beyond that point, then it becomes a disorder. So that is one part. So there are certain disorders like this, like OCD for example. It's a disorder. Obsessive compulsive disorder. If you're going to wash your hands every time you touch something, 40 times a day. If you're going to have bath 5 times a day. If you're going to worry about this little cleanliness over here and then you're going to again, find that this is not good, then that's an obsessive compulsive disorder. If you're going to have one song playing in your mind all the time, like a record, that old broken record that keeps going and you can't get it out of your mind, that's a disorder. That's a disease. Versus this, there are other problems. Other problems are emotional problems. They're not diseases. And it's very, very good that we should, be very clear on the distinction with the two. So for example, if we have loneliness, I always tell people that, I can be alone, but I'm never lonely. Because I'm happy to be with myself. I have so many creative juices in my system that keep exciting me all the time. So you can be alone and you need not be lonely, but somebody may say, oh my God, that guy is so lonely, bichara. But that's not true. It doesn't require any treatment or anything. You just have to deal with it. And ultimately, I'm saying, we are as strong as what we are from inside and not from outside. And you can never be happy and content when you start thinking and worrying about what's happening in the world. They say that the grass is always greener on the other side. If you look at history and you look at geography, where are thoughts held? Where are the maximum wars held? Where? Give me some examples. Come on, you kids in the balcony, let me hear from you. Wars. Always between neighbors. That's why the English thing has come. The grass is greener on the other side. It's always Iran and Iraq. It's always India and Pakistan. So just think about it. So it's always that we have the greed to be better than what our neighbor is or what somebody else is. But if we have contentment within us, if we say that, no, I'm very happy with what I have, and I'm so happy doing it, then happiness is a state of mind. It's not something that you can buy, it's not something that you can seek. Somebody asked me this question, that what's the secret for happiness? I mean, the moment you start seeking happiness, you lose it. You can't chase happiness. It is within you. So also this contentment, this whole thing of being happy from within is very important. The moment you start worrying about what other people think about you, you are going to be depressed and you're going to be unhappy. The moment you start saying that whatever I am doing makes me very happy. Today I had a great breakfast, so I'm very happy. And things like that. So it can be anything small. So start counting all the small things in life that make you happy. When I wake up every morning at 73, I'm happy that I'm living another day.
And we hope that you hit a century and beyond. But what you said again very rightly about happiness, Gautam Buddha also said the same thing. He said, people say I want happiness, but if you remove I and you remove want, the only thing that you're left with is essentially happiness. But sir, in today's day and age, the metric for happiness, the metric for success, the metric for role models is fast changing. Today we are projecting these people who are behind you, on the on the banner.
They are behind me on the banner, but otherwise they are in front of me. Because it is these kids who are going to be role models tomorrow.
No, absolutely.
And I'm sure that there are a lot of them are going to come on stage here.
No, absolutely. But sir, instead of showing these as role models, today's role models on Instagram and are slightly different from the role models that we project. At an I.I.M.U.N conference, we have somebody who's coming in like Nadir Godrej or a Deepak Parekh coming in and speaking, or a Shashi Tharoor coming in and speaking. It's not and with no disrespect to those who are only on Instagram. It's very different. These people have a different kind of, if I can borrow the word risk, they have a different kind of risk, and the others have a different kind of persona. So, how should young people choose role models in a day and age where everything is about instant gratification and everything is about that 30-second reel which you don't even watch for 30 seconds? So how can a young person choose the right role model? And who has been your role model? Again.
So that's a very, very difficult question. Difficult because, first of all, clearly that your role model is not the person who's getting the maximum likes. Because today likes can be bought. And we all know that. And therefore that's a wrong kind of role model to even think of. My second point is that I actually strongly believe in today's world there cannot be a single person as a role model. Why? Because even a complete man doesn't exist in Raymond's either. That's their byline, but you know that they have problems of their own. So there's nothing like a complete man, and so there's no one person who can be a role model. You can have different role models today for different kinds of people that you want to look at. So you can have a different role model, for example, for sports. So you can have a role model who's a cricketer or who's a basketball player, depending on a footballer. That's one role model. And you can have a different role model for entrepreneurship. And you can have a different, so there are different, today, that whole thing of one thing fits all does not exist. And therefore there's nothing like a single role model. You have to choose your own role model, and really it has to be somebody who can inspire you. Somebody who's basing his life on values, his or her life on values. Something that I would like to follow. Something which inspires me to be like that. Not necessarily in the same profession, but in thought, in action, in deed. Can I get inspired to follow that kind of a life? And that is why we still have role models like Mahatma Gandhi. Why? Because, not because of what he succeeded, but because of the philosophy of non-violence. So today we are living in a world of conflict. We are living in a very violent world. Today I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie Animal. Okay, pretty violent, wasn't it? And still so many of you enjoyed it. So today we are living in a world of conflict. And if we have to really live in a world of peace, we are looking at peace ambassadors as well. And you are one of them. We are looking at your company, your organization, to actually spread peace and goodwill and harmony across the world. So you really need to look at today a role model, not somebody who's aggressive, not somebody who's successful, but somebody who's spreading the right values. Because if you have the right values, you're then going to succeed in life. So look for somebody who has the right values. That's number one. Number two is, as far as my role model is concerned, I have no role model in that sense. But my role model was always my mother, because she taught us a very strong value system on which I based my life. And because I had these strong value systems, that's why I could build an organization which was value-based, which has succeeded and over a period of time. So it's very important that you choose a role model which is value-based. So for me, it was my mother, because she was the closest to me, and we grew up with all senses of honesty, justice, always telling the truth, even if it came at a cost to us. We got spanked for doing something that we could have told a lie and got away with, but that made us stronger, and that made to the fullest. And I think the final thing that I'd like to say, and then maybe 2 lines as well, as promised. So the final thing that I'd like to say is that, I know that as young people, you all have passion. Because that's what drives you. Today, youth is very passionate. What I want you to do is to add another P to the passion. Can you add purpose to passion? Can you drive that energy and channel that energy into something that will help society, help people around you, while you're helping yourself? And so if you can do passion and purpose, you are then going to really be a role model yourself for others.